Hey everyone, welcome to How to Play. I am Callus, and today I'm bringing you one of my recent pet favorite board game, Smartphone Inc. We'll start the game by placing the playing board at the center of the table. You will need a fairly large playing surface to accommodate the board itself as well as each player's playing areas. Secondly, we want to put the round tracker and the face marker on their corresponding spot. Next, we want to put the matching technology and patents on their corresponding symbols. And with the power of video editing, and this is what the completed technology setup should look like. Next, we put the goods and improvement tiles beside the improvement track, and we take the top of the improvement stack and we put them face up on the board. And also, we keep the score track nearby. Now give to each player their corresponding organizer, their screen, also the improvements corresponding to their color, and put the cubes, the office markers, and the progress markers into the corresponding slot in their organizer. Each player then gets two pads, one of the white symbol, one of the black symbol, and they'll put a office marker onto the area on the board corresponding to their screen. So in this case, blue player will put one office marker onto South America. Lastly, the blue player will also put a blue cube on the score track corresponding to their color. Everyone also begins with a goods cube on the 5 position for the price track, indicating that initially the price of their phone is $5, and this price can fluctuate between 2 to 8, depends on each round. Now, if playing with less than 5 players, we need to cover up some of these regions with retailer strips. Now the size of the retailer strip is denoted by a alphabet here, L, M, or S, indicating small, large, or medium. Now you have to put the same corresponding size of the retail strip on that area. So for example, Caribbean here is small. I also have a small retailer strip. So with the example of a 2-player game, we want to put a retailer strip on Caribbean, Canada, China, as well as any medium-sized area that's not occupying an office space. So green, we don't have that player here, so we'll cover that up. We don't have yellow for India, we'll cover that up as well. And lastly, we're gonna wanna cover up black for Australia. Now we are to add a third player, let's say yellow, we're gonna have to change the setup a little bit. So we'll remove all the existing retailer strip, except for the two covering the 2 players who are not in the game. And what we'll do is we'll instead cover up Europe and RSA. Now for a 4-player setup, let's say we add now green into the game. We will pretty much remove all the retailers, and the only one that we will keep is for Canada, as well as the black player who's currently not in the game. And for 5 players, so let's imagine we have black, we will not be using any retailer strips. The game also includes component for an AI player. You can use this player for solo play or add him in as an additional player when you're playing the game. We will not be going over the rule for this AI player during this tutorial. And having said that, we've completed the setup and ready to play the game. So each game is played over 5 rounds, and each round has 8 different phases. And when you reach the 8th phase of a round, the next round will begin. We begin the game in phase 1. And this is where the players will plan their strategies. And how they do that is they'll take these 2 planning pads, and what they do is they try to cover up one pad with another pad, right? So they can do it in whichever way they wish. The only rule here is so that you have to cover up at least 2 spots and at most 4 spots. You cannot cover up any more than that. And each of the pads has to be either parallel or perpendicular to one another. So for example, I can play this like this, or like that. These will all be valid placements. And I cannot cover it like that because I have to cover up at least 2 spots. So this would be at minimum what I want to cover. And the point of covering up these spots is so that all of the face-up symbols will be your active symbol for this round, and you'll be able to score their resources. And any of the covered up spots can actually produce you additional units of phone. So in this case, I covered up 2 spots underneath this pad. So I produced 2 additional units of phones during the production phase of that round. And obviously, during this entire time, you want to hide your action behind your screen so the other players don't know what you're planning and your strategy for the round. So now we've moved to phase 2. This is the price setting stage. So in this case, each player began with their phone price on 5. And based on what symbol they have showing up, their phone price will change. So in a sample configuration like this, the price will go up by 1. So we move our blue player's price from 5 to 6. Now we move to phase 3, which is the production phase. So now this phase is when each player will produce their corresponding number of units of cell phones. So what happens is in this configuration, the blue player receives 2 units of cell phone for 2 of the facing up black symbols. So I'm gonna move 2 cubes to this spot, indicating that I've produced 2 units. Also, since I covered up these 2 spots, I produced 2 additional units of cell phones. So I'm gonna move 2 more cubes for a total of 4 cubes. So now we move from phase 3 to phase 4, which is the improvement phase. So during the improvement phase, what each player does is whoever has the lowest priced phones will start taking up these tiles from the improvement track. And with these tiles in their possession, they can start using them starting their next turn. So let's imagine that they already have this tile. They can use this tile beginning during their planning phase to improve and change the configuration of their board. So how you use these tiles is during the planning phase, you can put them onto your board to change the configuration of your symbols. So by me placing this tile down, now I produce 4 units of goods plus the 2 underneath for a total of 6 units. And also remember that each player starts with 1 board of their color, so they can use this right away during the first turn. But for any tile acquired on the same turn, you can only use them on the turn afterwards. So also keep in mind, you can only perform this action if your improvement tile symbol is facing up. If this was covered, instead what you can do is take one of these good symbols instead. So what do these tiles do? These tiles will generate 1 additional units of cell phone for you. Or if you wish, you can use the backside of any improvement tile as such. So these will generate 2 additional units of goods, even though they're not placed onto your tile. Now we begin phase 5, which is the technology research phase. During this phase, each player with facing up technology symbols will take turn placing down their technology token into the corresponding spots. The cost of research the technology is shown beside each one of those symbols. So for example, with the blue player having 2 technology symbols showing up, they're allowed to put 2 of these progress trackers into these technology spaces. So for example, blue wants to research gaming. What they do is they put 2 of their trackers inside the gaming spot, showing that they've spent 2 technology tokens to research gaming, and it takes 2 more to completely research this and unlock this technology for blue. Now, you don't have to finish the research all in one go. You can accumulate enough tokens to complete the research over multiple rounds. But the order is important here because during phase 5, it's still the player who has the lowest price cell phone would go first. So in this case, if blue finishes this technology first, they then claim this patent for themselves, earning them 8 additional points. And starting from that point onwards, the technology for gaming will only cost 3 for you to research. And what blue player would do in this case is put a cube corresponding to their color into this spot, indicating that they've already unlocked this technology. So what the technology does is the gaming will reduce the cost of every other technology by 1. But this is only for player who has already researched it. So for the rest of the game, if the blue player wishes to research any other technology, it would cost them 1 less. And you can see that there's actually multiple technologies, and each one of these technologies are 2-sided. So you can decide which side to use for your game before the game has begun. And you can mix and match and then shuffle around these technologies and use different configurations to give you a different gaming experience every round. So phase 6 is the logistics phase. We're going to move the phase tracker to phase 6. Now, very similar to technology, the lowest price player will begin by placing token representing technology at one of the open markets connected to any markets where they already have an established office in. So for example, in this case, Blue Player has established their office in South America. They can place these markers in any space that is connected to South America with one of these black lines. So for example, they can establish a token here in the Caribbean. Now, very similar to technology, you don't have to complete all this in one go. You can complete them over multiple rounds. And the number of tokens you're allowed to place down is corresponding to how many of these truck symbol you have showing up. And once you have enough of these tokens as indicated beside here, so for Caribbean, you just need 2 of these tokens and you can remove them and instead put an office token here. Now indicating that you have an office here in South America and now as well also in Caribbean. Also, one additional thing is very importantly, you can only have one office in each location unless the technology says otherwise. Also as well, you want to make sure that to follow the order because ordering really matters in this case. So whoever has the lowest price phone for this round will go first. And whoever established the office in that area first, they put their office on the leftmost spots. And every other player will have to put their office in ascending order after that. And if a location is full, then you cannot put any more offices in that area. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to pick another area to expand it. So phase 7, which is arguably one of the most important phases in the game, is the selling phase. So during the selling phase, you can only sell goods at locations where you have offices. And the turn order is of course based on the price. So whoever has the lowest price, in this case Blue Player, whose phone only costs $4, will get to go first. And each one of these square at any of the location represents one potential buyer. Now keep in mind, each one of these buyers will only buy 1 unit of phone this round. So for example, if Blue has sold to this buyer, then Yellow Player cannot sell phone to this buyer for this round. And if you wish to sell to a numbered player, then your cell phone price must be below the amount that they're willing to spend. So for example, for South America, there are 3 buyers. One will only spend up to $2 on a phone. So Blue, since his price is at 4, they can sell phones to both the buyer who are willing to spend $4 and $5 respectively. Now, if you wish to sell your phone to one of these technology slots, you can do that as long as you have the technology researched. So for example, Red Player in this case, whose phone costs $5, and they wish to sell here in North Africa. Now, they cannot sell to the $3 marker because their phone costs too much. But as long as they have the Wi-Fi technology enabled, they can put their cube down to sell to this buyer. Now, these buyers whose only interest is in technology, they are not sensitive to price. So they're willing to buy even if your phone is costing $8 or $7. So that's where you can accumulate a lot of money by selling to these buyers as long as you have the technology. If you remember the area being covered by the retailer strips, nobody can sell phone in those areas. So it is very important that we follow this order, and you need to be very strategic about your pricing because whoever has the lower price gets to sell their phone first. So if they take up all the spots, then the next player, even if Yellow wish to sell at those spots, they'll have very limited spots for them to be able to sell because Blue has already occupied all those buyers. Now we come to the last phase, which is scoring. So during this phase, the players will score the action that they've taken for this round. So for instance, in this case, for the Blue Player, first we'll score the gaming patent that they've cleared. So they gain 8 points for that. And also, Blue Player moved into a retailer occupied region. Although you cannot sell phones here, but you are able to score 11 points for being the first player who moved into the retailer region. So the Blue Player will gain 8 plus 11, 19 points. So on top of the 4 that they already have, they will gain 4 plus 19, and they move to 23. One other very important aspect, obviously, is how many phones you're able to sell. So if you recall, Blue Player has 6 units of phones at $4 each. That's $24. So we move 23 plus 24, so blue player moved to 47 for the amount of phone they're able to sell. There is one other way to score bonus points, and the way to do that is to dominate the market for any region where you're currently selling phones. So for example, for South America, blue has sold 3 units of phones more than any other player for that region, so blue dominates the market. Now, if they dominate the market, they get a bonus. How much? So you can tell by looking at these numbers here. So since there are 3 competitors in this area, whoever sold the most is able to score 5 points. And the second place, being yellow, they get a consolation prize of 2 points. So if, let's say, green player is not in this market becomes less competitive. And the first player, which means blue dominated the market, though it's not very competitive, they still get 3 bonus points. And yellow, in this case, unfortunately, will receive 0. So we'll factor in the 5 bonus points from blue. They'll actually get 47 plus 5 goes up to 52. And you apply the same principle to every other region where blue is trying to sell phone to see how many other regions they're dominating. So in this case, they also dominate the Caribbean as well as RSA. So you will have to add in those points as well. So after each player has calculated their score, the end of the round triggers. So we remove all the goods cube from the board. Everybody reset their price back to 5. We replenish the improvement tracks to make sure that there's 5 facing up. We move the face marker back to 1, and we move the round tracker to the next round, and the next round will begin. So obviously the game ends after the last round of round 5, and whoever has the highest score would win. And in case of a tie, it's whoever has the most number of technology researched, that will be your tiebreaker. And one very small caveat is, you see that this round, during the last round, the improvement symbol is disabled. That is because any improvement you pick up can only be used in the subsequent round. Since round 5 is already the last round, so there's no point of picking up a new improvement symbol since you cannot use it anyway. And that's pretty much the game. So overall, I've been very impressed with this game. The pieces are made with good quality material, and they provide each player with trays which doubles as an organizer to store the pieces as well. If you liked the video, please give me a like and share any thoughts about the game in the comment section. If you want to make sure to catch any future videos for board game tutorial and reviews, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching.